Hi, my name is Ravi Jagannathan, and I'm going to talk about how to dismantle a cloud. It seems like it's a pretty moribund topic, but it is not. As OpenStack is emerging, people are actually spreading OpenStack into the cloud. What is happening is people who adopted cloud technology in the first and second generation, like 2007, 8 timeframe, they already have a working cloud. So to incorporate something like an openStack, they need to figure out a way how to dismantle an existing cloud safely so that they can roll out an OpenStack based cloud. And this is actually a very important thing for any OpenStack vendors who want to actually deploy an OpenStack cloud. So we are going to talk about various aspects of it. I happen to be part of this having to go through dismantle a cloud to accommodate an OpenStack based cloud. So the issues involved are myriad, and there's a lot of things. So I wrote this little article on LinkedIn some time ago about how to dismantle a cloud a few weeks ago. Usually I think, I thought, when you write an article like that, it takes about 3 reads or 5 reads over a month or something. I published it. Over a few days, to my surprise, I had 20,000 reads. So obviously, it just hit some spot that attracted the many readers to read this, and it went viral. And you can read that article at LinkedIn also. I took the essential aspects of the article and based on multiple requests from people in OpenStack, I just thought that it'll be worth going through that some of the salient points of the article here. So we're going to take this issue that one by one. If somebody is redesigning their cloud or upgrading the hardware or the software, or as most people are, they are trying to move away from their proprietary cloud infrastructure software, like the way that I have dealt with a lot, moving to OpenStack. It essentially comes down to one way or other, they have to dismantle the cloud, and that actually happens to be a much bigger problem. It's actually much more difficult to do than building a cloud. So that's basically the issue that that actually hitting people. So dismantling your cloud in some ways, it actually I'm going to be more talking about in the context of the OpenStack. So why are people dismantling their cloud? They are relocating their data center, and as a part of it, they said, okay, we'll move to OpenStack in the process, because people are moving from very expensive, the virtualization cloud solutions to OpenStack, because they think it is a lot more cost effective to do that. Or they are upgrading their hardware, and as they are upgrading their hardware, they are saying, well, as we are upgrading the hardware and then going through the entire process of upgrading the cloud infrastructure, why don't we take this chance to upgrade or change the cloud infrastructure software, something like OpenStack, and actually from Liberty onwards, the OpenStack actually is getting to be more stable, and people are really looking forward to deploying OpenStack from Mitaka onwards. I talked to various people downstairs in the exhibit hall at this Austin Summit. A lot of people have been saying, well, OpenStack has been somewhat reliable, but its reliability has been in question. But when we run some kind of a test suites and everything, test cases against Liberty, it is showing some kind of a stability there, and people are gaining confidence. I think Mitaka is one release where people are really going to be putting their stake in the ground. So as they're upgrading the hardware, they're saying moving to OpenStack may not be a bad idea. And so this falls into the previous idea that I actually pointed out. Another thing is people are actually upgrading their network infrastructure. when people are upgrading the network infrastructure, it is not only from one network device to another network device, they actually are upgrading in terms of mix matching the network device with the virtualized version of that network functions. So they are also deploying NFV in the process. So when they mix and match, openStack again falls in place quite nicely with the infrastructure. And there's another reason they are looking at openStack. So upgrading network infrastructure is another trigger for people to go to the openStack. Now all of these things eventually coming down to they having to dismantle their cloud in some fashion or other and then rebuild it. Now many people have their applications in their servers, it's like a 3-tier database application or web application or everything. It has been running in their infrastructure just fine, and they are trying to move their application to the cloud. They also want to use this opportunity to move application to the cloud. There are some openStack distros that provide the entire infrastructure where that integrates the applications to the security levels, to the tenant topology levels, to the networking. There are some openStack distros that do that, and those are the reasons why people who are trying to move their application to the cloud, they are also looking into, hey, how we can upgrade our infrastructure and change our infrastructure. In the meantime, take advantage of moving our cloud to the applications to the cloud, thereby reducing the cost. So all of these things are more or less the moving the application to the cloud is a means of reducing the cost. So unfortunately, when people are trying to do such disruptive thing, the number of issues that crop up, it grows exponentially based on the heterogeneity of the number of various hardware platforms they have, and it also grows exponentially based on the number of software components they have, right from the infrastructure to the applications to the overlay they have chosen and the NFVs they have deployed in the previous infrastructure. When they change the infrastructure, each and every one of these factors exponentially increase the complexity. So the size of the cloud, heterogeneity of the hardware and software, all of them actually increase the complexity. Now immediate problem that crops up as one moves is they have a lot of devices in the existing network, in the existing their own cloud infrastructure that they built a proprietary software for. Now they want to move it to this new cloud infrastructure. So are they going to reuse their devices? One of the problem, actually I ran into this problem some time ago, is that we had a device that was just working fine, and we want to reuse the device because we paid a lot of money into it, and but when it was moved over to some other place, it was in a less secure environment because it wasn't zoned into the security zone. So there it had some sensitive data, and that the sensitive data got exposed. So reusing the data in the cloud is not simple as you lift this device and then put it into a different lab or whatever building and then just connect the power and the wires and everything runs fine. No, you have to actually look into the possibility of sensitive data being going outside of the security zone. This is another thing. A couple of service providers that I talked to in this summit, they very much appreciated this idea. They happened to read my article. They came back and asked me. So it seemed like this is more of a real life problem than a theoretical issue. So another thing is, so this raises a new question. Do they want to reuse or discard their equipment? If they disregard their equipment, they have to actually sanitize and clean everything in their equipment so that there is no data left. when they dismantle something. So that itself is a piece of work. And if they are actually using a software and they don't want to use the software, then they have a whole bunch of data associated with the software, and that software also they cannot discard. And they have to actually incorporate data, they have to somehow absorb the data into the new software that they are buying into, because there is a lot of valuable customer versus corporate data is in that. So they have to take care of that kind of things too. So reusing the devices, reusing the softwares is not an easy thing when somebody is redesigning a cloud in a bigger way. So what is secure way to discard or reuse hardware and software? This mechanism is case by case basis. There is no well defined procedure. Every one of them come up with a procedure that fits them, and there is no standard checklist to go through when people go through such procedures. So what happens is, this is another aspect that people have to worry about. So if you guys look at it, we are going through step by step many things that people have to consider when they dismantle a cloud. And this dismantling a cloud is becoming more and more frequent, more and more of a necessity as OpenStack is taking off, because it is replacing the existing cloud infrastructure that has been built in the last 10 years or so. So that's why this topic is gaining more traction. So now there is this thing of how to erase, migrate, back up the data in the cloud. Backing up a data exposes another possibility. There is this financial company recently, they built their own cloud, and they backed up their data because they were going to move to this new cloud. The problem there is, all of a sudden the data that was in a secure environment got into this device, it became a data at rest. When sensitive data is at rest, it is a potential, it basically is asking for somebody to be somebody to steal it. It is an easy attack for the attacker, because usually backup data are not encrypted. They should be, but oftentimes they are not, and they are there. People think it is behind the firewall, we don't have to worry about it, but most of the attacks happen inside as opposed to from an attacker outside. It's counterintuitive, and it is actually true. So the data migration, the data backup, and then restoring the data into the new cloud is not an easy task as people think it can be, or it is. And it is not. I mean, actually there are at least a couple of OpenStack installations that I came across, and it came in one of the case study. What happened was, in the process, they were moving the data, and then they were moving the data from SAN to this Ceph storage. And in the Ceph storage, they had some problems, and they have to move back and forth, and sensitive data got leaked. Ceph storage itself is a new software. It is becoming stable, but it is got its growing pains. It's not many people are using it, but still it has got some ways to go before it becomes rock solid. So what are the responsibilities of various teams in the organization? So when one dismantles a cloud, since I teach at the university, one of the service providers basically wanted to let go of their previous cloud, which is a very old infrastructure, and they want to move. They had this huge organization, and their cloud was spread across geographically in multiple places. So who is going to be responsible for dismantling the cloud while not disrupting the service? That means they have to have built the new cloud already a little bit, so for an easy transition. And who is responsible for discarding the old equipment, and who is responsible for taking all the security aspect into account while discarding the devices. So these are all various functions, and they tend to be of responsibilities of various teams in a company. If a company is like 15 people company or a 40 people company, it's not an issue because it's a small team, they know how to coordinate it, and it just works out great. But when looks at huge data centers and huge service providers, this kind of coordination will have to happen in a much more choreographed manner. If it doesn't happen in a choreographed manner, things will fall through the cracks, and there is a risk of losing the equipment onwards, which is costly, but it's not as much as losing the very sensitive data. So these are the real life experiences that I am going through since I'm building like 13th or 14th cloud now. What I am finding is dismantling a cloud and the problem associated with dismantling the cloud is something becoming a hot issue as opposed to building a new cloud. So these issues are more real than what we think. And another question to actually consider while dismantling a cloud to go to a newer cloud like OpenStack is it worthwhile to have a temporary hybrid cloud, whereas we move certain critical functions and critical data to the hybrid cloud, and then we will shut down part of our internal cloud, we will rebuild it to the OpenStack, and then as it becomes stable, we will move the data from the hybrid cloud to the OpenStack cloud. That is not a bad plan. However, it raises another question: have we mastered or have we taken into all the issues involved in securing our data in the hybrid cloud? Some of the public cloud service providers, they don't guarantee security. Some do to some level, some don't. So in such situations, if you're going to extend your the network to the hybrid cloud, and when you bring it back, you could bring back all kinds of garbage into your cloud. So this is another thing. These are practical issues medium to big size companies are actually experiencing or actually encountering as they are contemplating or moving to the OpenStack based clouds. These are practical issues that come to my attention day in and day out. Another thing is that people are looking at, hey, what is the cost of dismantling the cloud? Yes, I have got my own cloud. Now I'm moving to the OpenStack cloud, and they want to have some kind of a cost involved, the human cost, the machine cost, and then the productivity cost, all of those things. There is no method to quantify the cost involved. It's very important to quantify the cost, because once you quantify the cost in various stages, one can optimize the cost. That's the reason why one need to know and quantify the cost in dismantling a cloud to move to a newer technology like OpenStack. So all the OpenStack vendors have vested interest in learning about dismantling a cloud and in telling the customers, saying that, hey, you may have to go through something like dismantling the cloud, and we understand it quite well, and these are the aspects involved, and this is how we can mitigate the inconvenience and the cost and the time involved. So that's the reason why knowing more about dismantling the cloud is becoming more and more important. Oftentimes, when an OpenStack, the vendor goes into a house, they are going to find either a cloud that they have already built some years ago using C program or whatever, or they already have an OpenStack cloud from a different vendor that they have to displace. So these are the things that come into picture. OpenStack guys have a new project called Freeze, where you can back up the data and restore the data, that kind of thing, but it's at a conceptual stage. It is not at a production level yet. But since from Liberty and Mitaka, OpenStack is seen more as stable people are saying, hey, can I at least have this as a limited lab trial? Can I deploy it in production at a limited scale? Those questions are being asked. So unless somebody really understand and actually have a good handle on this kind of issues, they will have huge problem in selling their OpenStack software to the customers. So these issues are critical. So the immediate problems, we are going to the second stage. Another thing that is not quite understood is, as a matter of fact, I'm going through a huge, cloud transition project, going from a huge infrastructure of a cloud that has been working absolutely fine. People don't want me to disturb it, but for cost effectiveness, we need to move it to the OpenStack. Now, what is the timeline involved? Part of the timeline is what I've been telling is, see, OpenStack has not been quite stable. It has not been. However, it is evolving, and I think from Liberty, definitely from Mitaka, I think the confidence level is higher. So even when it is there, what kind of stress test suite I need to run to make sure the cloud is stable is another thing that is unclear. So what kind of timing is involved in all of these things, starting from the old cloud and then doing a smooth transition and then running all of the stress test suite and everything, making sure the new infrastructure works fine. What is the timeline involved? So this timeline involved is not quite understood. Usually people make up these timings as they go along, and it is usually not longer than what they think. And when people are going through this, the transition of the cloud, obviously the internal productivity suffers, because there will be disruption, there will be disruption of data flow, there will be disruption in networks, and there will be disruption of access to the data. And when somebody is backing up the data, restoring the data, all of these things affect. So this affect the productivity of the organization. So how are they going to do it in a step-by-step transition manner so that the productivity, the effect on productivity is lower? So what kind of a pre and post announcements are needed? Oftentimes when we go through from one cloud to another, if you take typically a banking, banking customer or service provider customers, they have got their network operators, they've got their, the people who are actually taking care of the servers, they've got the customers, they've got these planners. So at what stage, who are all need to be informed, and then so people are ready for the kind of changes that are going to be there, like network is going to be down tomorrow, or your bandwidth is going to be low tomorrow. If we inform such things to the end customers ahead of time, even though they may not like it, it becomes manageable. For example, if it is a computer company, then if they tell the development and QA and everybody else saying that we are changing our private cloud environment where this 10,000 people are going to be using, you guys are going to have an outage for these 2 days, you cannot work. That becomes a pre-planned announcement, and who are all need to be informed is another important thing. So who all need to be communicated is also has to be taken into account. So how not to disturb the critical cloud services, that's also there. Is there a cost optimization in moving applications to OpenStack? This is something also we need to see. And as one transition to OpenStack from existing one, is it time to move the data center to a cheaper location? Moving it from expensive Silicon Valley to somewhere in Montana where no human being lives, 10 miles surrounding, so where there is a lot of solar power, right? Or Central California, things like that. there are many different ways of looking at it. So while transitioning the cloud is also a good opportunity to move the data center. Dismantling a cloud safely, securely, and effectively, it still remains a black art. It is done in a haphazard manner. It's not like a software development program. People know, they have to get the requirement first, and then they have to do the functional spec and write the code and test. It's well defined. So in dismantling a cloud, to actually go to a new technology, this whole process is a dark art, and I have been going through this for the last, about 3 to 4 years, because first and second generation clouds are being dismantled for a newer generation cloud now. So it turns out, I have come up with some kind of a, the methodology, and I think it can still mature better. So assuming you want to do, how to adapt, basically you can, the process, since the process is not exactly well known, what I suggest is, for a given environment, people study these kind of factors. This talk here gives you a beginning pointers of where to start from, and probably customize it to your environment, to your past cloud that you have, and where you want to go, how is your data, what are your security boundaries, what is your zoning, who are your customers, who are going to be affected. All of these things could come very handy. Knowing these things ahead of time could come very handy. And I think that's why dismantling a cloud to adapt something like a newer technology like openStack is a very important topic to be aware of. Thanks, guys.